But my ceiling was here, and we helped some famous celebrity become a billionaire with their beauty brand or with their personal care. When I ran the beauty company, I launched 1,207 brands. When I say 65 and 150 joint ventures, that's like a vacation for me. I mean, money's a byproduct of doing great work. Money's a byproduct of helping people become successful and working as a team. It is even more important on knowing who not to know than it is who knowing. Small accomplishments, I think, are so much more important than the big win.
Inspiration Nation, hello, it is Lee Kemp here, dropping a special bonus episode. I'm just by myself, which means we've got an interview, should I say, easy for me to say, for you. I am absolutely pumped today, really excited that we have got Brian Esposito joining us. Hey Brian, how are you doing there?
Hey, good, Lee. How are you today?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. So just a little intro for everyone listening. Brian is I would say, a serial investor and advisor. Looking through stuff on social media, the amount of companies you're involved with, doing stuff for is absolutely mind-boggling, and I can't wait to dig into some of that and see what's going on. All over social media as well, particularly, I mean, we contacted on Twitter, which was how we met each other. I've seen as well, very prolific on LinkedIn, and some fantastic posts as well, I have to say, which again, there's some bits I want to talk about on there. And not just talking about the good, you're very open about talking about the bad and the journey and what happens on the kind of the other side of success fence, and hugely interactive with everyone on there as well, which is great to see. You are the CEO and founder of Esposito Intellectual Enterprises, which has the brilliant domain name of EIE.rocks. I absolutely love that, and the message that goes with it as well. So much so, I'm thinking of changing our website to InspirationNation.rocks as well, because I think that's brilliant. Sends out a fantastic message. So welcome to the podcast. Be great to speak to you and see what's going on. So, I mean, my first thing as a starter, just for you, you want to talk about yourself and what you do, but I mean, ultimately, no one starts as an investor and no one starts as an advisor. You need the funds to do that. You need the knowledge to do it. So kind of what got you started, and I suppose, why did you go down the path you went down?
Sure. Well, thank you again. It's a pleasure to be on the show, and I have to say you're a gentleman and a class act in the way that you responded back to me. You're so quick and efficient, and we're cut from the same cloth, and so I do appreciate
that.
our communication. So yeah, a quick overview. Over the last 20 years, I've built what is now a holding company at the top level. It's wholly owned by myself, and as of the end of 2020, we have 65 holdings under the portfolio, and I've accumulated over 150 joint ventures from around the world. But to answer your question, how this all started, I started selling nail polish in the late 90s. I was moving beauty supplies around New Jersey, loading up my car, trying to sell shampoo, combs, and nail polish to salons and spas. And after getting thrown out of 80% of them, I said, it's got to be a better way here. So I always had a niche and love for technology. And I always dabbled in it, within my own capabilities. And I went to a company to help me build a site. And at the time, it wanted astronomical numbers. It wasn't like WordPress or Shopify or Wix is today. You actually had to code and build, and a lot of hours of work, and hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to do what I wanted to do. And I said, well, I'll figure it out. So I taught myself how to code. I built the first B2B, B2C e-commerce platform for the beauty industry in the late 90s. That continued to run even to this day in its own way. But because of those experiences, and it was just one hell of an awful journey. It should have been so fun and exciting for me. The beauty industry is exciting. It's recession proof. It is now proven to be pandemic proof. And but ultimately I opened up a brand new medium to sell products. So I was upsetting manufacturers, upsetting distributors, I was upsetting stores, and I was just under attack every day. And but I learned that I can get through it. I learned that I have the ability to figure it out. And I may be shaking at night trying to sleep, but the next day I just got up and got through the day again.
So you're a disruptor before disruptor was a cool term then.
That's right. And I was disrupting my health and my soul and my body at the same time. But what I did learn during that process is that I could get into any room. I realized people took my calls, and I realized I had value to add. But the problem, I didn't know how to value myself. it took me about 15 years to perfect that. As obnoxious as it may sound, there's value to me. There's value to the way that I connect with people. There's value to the way where I bring people together. Now, the problem was, how do you monetize that? And how do you protect yourself when you connect A and B and they go off and do something great and they forgot about you, which happens every day, happens to people all over the world. And when you start to do that and you see it continuing to happen, you can either be bitter and mad and closed off. Therefore, none of those opportunities create themselves anymore, because I'm all about energy and trying to be as positive as possible and just create something. It doesn't have to be financial or monetary, but just create. So I chose the latter and figure a way. Well, how do I let these people know that I'm part of this? How do I articulate it correctly that we're all in this together? And how do I know where to add value, when to keep my mouth shut, and how to continue to grow and nourish that relationship? And it's clicking. It took me, again, 15, 16 years to figure it out. And now when companies, I have enough track record behind me, there's enough of these wonderful podcasts and interviews behind me where people invite me in. Well, actually, I got to fix that. I used to be invited into people's worlds, and that was wrong. Now I invite people into my world and everything that comes with it, whether it's relationships, it's access to capital, it's partners, it's customers, it's branding. I really become a turnkey member of their entire management team. And I help companies grow. I help companies become successful. I help companies become self-sufficient, all because I had to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
And it's rewarding for me now to be able to take all those experiences, all of that, those hurdles, those problems, those great moments, those horrible moments. It all makes sense where I get to apply it into different companies, whether they're startups, even up to Fortune 500 companies, where I'm taking all of that with me and we're continuing to create something wonderful. And finally, I feel a little bit of a reward in why I'm here. And I think I'm fulfilling a purpose of why I'm supposed to be here.
That's really good background story. And from selling nail polish at the back of your car to helping startups and funding businesses and everything else, like you're saying, that's quite probably not the journey you started off on in the first place, but with that entrepreneur and that kind of hustler mentality there, then I suppose to be able to be out there and start selling stuff and initially force your or get knocked back from those shop doors in the first place then. So you had your business selling the beauty products. You then looked into, in the very early days of the internet, the website film. You built the commerce platform. How did you then make that step to decide? How did you get your foot in the first door to then start advising somebody else on what their business is and start that boulder rolling for you? What was it that got you in that direction?
Sure. Yeah, well, I guess I actually was advising myself, to be honest with you, because I realized, so the beauty company had so much access. It was involved in the music industry, it was involved in the fashion industry, it was involved in celebrities, athletes, entertainers. And while I was helping those companies grow, or I don't know, for example, a famous singer launched a beauty line, they would come to us to help them create the brand it, manufacture it, and distribute it, because we were a full service turnkey shop.
Yeah.
And for way too long, I was so happy to get that brand. And then I had my little slice of the pie. We bought the products, we sold the products, so I can't complain. We did well, and we built a business. But my ceiling was here, and we helped some famous celebrity become a billionaire with their beauty brand or with their personal care brand. And after you keep doing that over and over again, I couldn't believe how foolish I was, where I didn't make sure that I was part of the brand.
Yeah.
And not just, I was happy getting the distribution. I was happy we were able to carry it. That was my inexperiences where I should have been demanding more, because they were coming to me. It's so much better when someone comes to you with something rather than you going to them and trying to get the play. And so then I started thinking, well, what if I own the band? So then stupidly went out and built a band, knowing nothing about the music industry, and made every mistake you can think of. So I was advising myself in a new industry on what the hell am I supposed to do here? And I have to make it work, because I'm promoting it. I'm out there telling this story where we're launching a band. And we hit it. We launched the band. They became a Macy's iHeart Top 25 Rising Star, and it was all about the relationships. It's unfortunate. It is who you know. I hate that, but that's the world that we live in. I don't care how much money you have. There's certain things you can't buy access to. It's really about building a good reputation, building a great relationship, knowing when to tap into it, when to not. Um, so, and then answering your question again very longly, then I started to say, well, okay, here's again value for me. So when companies would come to me for help, which I used to say, if you're coming to me for help, you really exhausted all your your options. But I quickly realized I have a lot of value to offer. I have the ability to solve problems. I know the right people. I've been through so much than the average bear. And then I started playing around. Okay, well, how do I get involved? And coming on as a strategic advisor to these companies was really the most risk-free way, where I was insured. I was part of that entity at some capacity, and me being advising those companies, they could see what I could do without me really being in bed with them. You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't the management officer of the company. I wasn't an employee. They could police me and I could speak on behalf of the company. So I was starting to create this even more amazing role where I can once again take everything I've built, be contractually part of something as an advisor, and it allowed me to do what I do. You know, I wasn't restricted. I could go and speak on behalf of the company. I can create these opportunities. I had full range to be me, which is important. And making sure when I'm putting these partnerships together that if that company had went from $1 million to 10 million and I got my advisory shares, at least I'm part of the ride. You know, at
Yeah.
least I'm not being taken advantage of. So yeah, went from me perfecting it with myself, as crazy as that sounds, saying it out loud, to realizing I could do this for other companies, starting as an advisor, but ultimately, as I tell everybody, if I start as an advisor, I don't work 5-10 hours a month as an advisor. Like, I'm there daily with you. If my name's attached to something, I'm in the foxhole with you. I'm in the grind with you, the good times with you, the bad times with you. I ultimately need to be a member of the management team. I ultimately need to grow with the company as I continue to perform, which everybody that works and helps companies grow should be properly compensated and grow with those companies. So everybody understands that when I get involved. If it starts an advisor, I expect within 90 days I'm bumped into a real management level position, and we just do good work with good people. It's as simple as that.
Sounds really good. There's a couple of things I want to come back and revisit on there, which you said that really resonated one of me. One's about the value adding bit, and also on relationships. You've touched on that a few times. But I mean, first, just again, looking at kind of social media and then looking at your LinkedIn thing, looking at the website for the company as well, at the fantastic.rocks domain, there are a lot of, you have got your fingers in many pies, to use a terrible, corny phrase. So how do you, and like you said, you want to add value, you want to be a part of the journey with them, you want to be giving them your time. Where does your time come from? How do you balance that out with, you know, also you, because you said early on you ran yourself into the ground basically. So what is it now that gives you that energy or gives you that time?
I did. So it's hard to explain that people aren't wired the way I am. So my brain works a lot better with a lot more going on. It's very easy for me to connect things, and fortunately slash unfortunately, I can remember someone I bumped into in an airport 12 years ago that's selling something, and then I meet somebody today. I'm like, oh, I got to go back to that guy because these two need to get together. So again, the more firing in my brain, the more effective I am. Secondly, what's important for people to understand, when I ran the beauty company, I launched 1,207 brands. I was dealing with lawyers, all these brands, buyers. We were first to launch beauty on Amazon. We were Jet.com's first retail, and I was involved in every aspect of that. And you're taking all those brands, all those different personalities, let alone the crazy employees. I shouldn't use the word crazy. That's not nice. The lunatic employees I had to deal with. Um, and life. Forget about work. You also have personal stuff that's going on, and all of that noise. Now, when I say 65 and 150 joint ventures, that's like a vacation for me compared to what I went through. I went to like Vietnam with building that beauty company and training my brain to constantly be working and constantly be in overdrive. Not to mention, being an Amazon merchant is the best and worst thing in the world, because if you don't reply back to a customer in 3 seconds, they will rip you from the
Yeah.
platform, never be allowed on. So I'm like there answering customer questions, blowing out birthday candles, saying Merry Christmas to people. Like I was just nonstop. So now I can actually take a step back, and even though it seems crazy from the outside world looking in, how do you do all this? It's really, I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's so much more rewarding, and it's so much more efficient for me. Like I love what I'm doing, and it's a lot less than what I used to be doing. And even though
Yeah.
I'm working 24/7, I guess it's different use of energy. There's different use of the fuel in my tank isn't being burned out so quickly with all that other stuff. It's spread out, more organized. I got great teams running all these companies, and it's fun. It's really fun.
I love that, and I think that's the crux on it. Because and I can relate with you on what you said about the business thing. I'm the sort of person where if I don't have too much to do, you almost start to slow down a little bit, and your brain rests a little bit. Whereas if you've got lots going on, and you've got quick decisions, it's definitely not better. And it sounds like you've stretched your capacity like that when you're in the beauty stage, and now you can do this much, which is a lot to everyone, like you said, because it's a lot less than before. And I suppose more importantly is you're doing what you love. And it's a big thing we always talk about on our podcast, which is if you love what you do, it doesn't even really feel like work sometimes.
Mm-mm.
And it
No,
sounds like
you're
you've been able to go out, you've crafted, you've got this business and you've crafted, sounds like from what you're saying, this advisory role to get you in with businesses, to make sure you've got the stake. And like you said, not get left behind as great things happen and people forget you were even there, but you've been able to do it in a way that works for you and lets you utilize your talents. Because right back to your again, your nail polish days, being out there and promoting and selling sounds like something you really enjoy doing. I see there's a lot of promoted related things that sit in your portfolio in the entertainment industry as well. So I presume that's a big spark for you. So yeah, I just obviously just recapping what you say, but it sounds like because you enjoy it a lot more, that lets you use that energy in that right way.
It's so true. And I'm a brander marketer at heart. I love telling a story. I mean, we do so much in the digital and wireless space, but I don't have anything here to show you, but a phone. I love tangible products. I love things that people can touch and feel and connect with.
Yeah.
So anything I do, I always try to tie a consumer play to it, or something where if you're going to build an audience, such as what you're doing, you're building an audience and you have this wonderful destination for content. You get to speak with people like me if I'm of any interest to anybody. And how do you take it from an audible? You have the visual side with your YouTube channel. Now, how do you tie it into maybe some sort of branded merchandise or apparel? Or is it just something to keep that brand alive and what you created? And oh, there it is, exactly. And your platform and what you're doing is really what I try to do out in the world.
Yeah.
I love helping people. It's a vice of mine. It's a thorn of mine sometimes, because sometimes you just help the wrong person. But when I get to work with these startups and they can see that I can help them grow. I mean, when they're my companies, and this is something I did wrong for a long time, it's my rules now, because it's my ass on the line, it's my capital on the line. Anybody else can go and get another job. I'm the one there left holding the bag of mess if things go upside down. But when it's other people's companies, I know both sides. I know what they need. I know the support that they need. I know that sometimes I'm a therapist. Sometimes I'm someone that answers all of their problems. But a lot of the time I have to bite my tongue, because if you want to run a company and if you want to be a CEO and an entrepreneur, then you need to get your ass kicked a little bit.
Yeah.
You need to learn. So I have to take a step back sometimes and let them go through the process, get a little less green, and understand how to deal with a problem and become stronger and smarter. So when the next problem comes, they can handle it. But I'm always there as a rock for them. I won't let it get too far, but it is important for me to make sure that they're going through the process and the learning experiences so they can continue to be better business people.
Yeah, so consciously helping them build up that resilience they need for what you've got to carry when you're running a business. Now, I love that. And I want to touch on, we talked about, because obviously there's a business side, you're big into your social media as well. Obviously, you've got fantastic following on LinkedIn, like I said, on Twitter as well. And I saw I saw a recent post you did where it's a version of kind of the iceberg thing, but you're showing it in a different way, where you've got that journey of success and you're showing all the difficult stuff on the way. And I thought, I really like that infographic. I thought I'd have a look. And then attached to it, you've done this wonderful little article where you're just heart on your sleeve, talking about all the hardships you've gone through, the challenges, everything. Like, I started reading it, and I, like everyone else, these days, I have a very short attention span because we're hit with a million things in a million different ways. And if it's not grabbed you in 5 seconds, you're on to the next thing. And I read that thing top to bottom, and then I started going through the comments to see what other people have said, because I really liked it. And I think that honest, open approach, and it's quite refreshing. And you actually touch on it a bit yourself in doing it, is you're not just talking about success and what I've done and showing flashy things. You're actually saying, this was really hard, and I'm a person and I find it really hard sometimes. And sometimes I even wonder if I'd even put myself through this all again, which I thought was fantastic. But it takes a lot to put yourself out there like that. And it takes a lot of investment in time to build up the network and stuff that you've got with social media. And I know from what you said, relationships and contacting people is really important. But on that front of actually giving advice to other people, and what is, free advice to other people, you're not getting anything from those articles and stuff that go out. How important is that to you and what you do as well for you as a person?
Thank you, first of all, for reading that. I want to make sure I'm following the question correctly. How important is it?
I did give a long question there.
No, it's a great multiple questions. But how important is it for me to be there and help people?
I think for you personally, and kind of, I suppose, your approach and your well-being, writing something like that and putting your heart out on the sleeve, where does that sit for you, and what's the importance for you in giving that message out to people?
I'll tell you, as I was writing it, selfishly, it was therapeutic for me. I mean, that was the main thing, was therapy, to get to take a moment and get that out, because at the time I was going through quite a lot. And I don't post anything personal on any I don't use Facebook, I don't use Instagram. I just use Twitter and LinkedIn, and I try to frame it where I think everything that I do is of value to people's time.
Yeah.
And I think it could be interesting and engaging. The LinkedIn communities, I've been there since day one, since they launched. So that's slowly building and nourished. And you can't just put up a profile and expect to be a phenomenon. Like, the same thing where you can't just build a product and be an overnight success. You got to work it, and it's constant work, and it's making sure that you're putting the right information up. It's making sure you're liking the right things and you're supporting the right things. And again, I'm a storyteller at heart, so the story has to make sense. The whole vision has to make sense. And sometimes people look at my holding and say, well, it's a mess. I was like, well, maybe it's a mess to you, but to me, it makes a lot of sense, and it's clean and it's organized, and I can take anything and drop it in there and create something. I can create a product, I can create a technology, I can create a media piece. I can give me anything outside of brain surgery. I'll drop. Actually, we have some healthcare tech. Give me anything I can drop in there, and I can make something happen. Again, it's with the people that we know. It's with the great companies that we work with. We have great legal, great accounting, great compliance. It's got to make sense, and it's got to resonate with the community. Like you're building a community of listeners. The people that you have on have to make sense to your platform and your vision and what you want to accomplish. I don't think you'd put on someone on your show if they had a huge audience if it didn't make sense to inspiring people.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people miss that. A lot of people want that instant gratification. And I only compare things like Instagram and Facebook, Triller now, or TikTok, to a slot machine. And they want that. They want those cherries to line up, and they just keep pulling it until they get the cherries to line up. And that's what they do with their posts. And some people, the more outlandish and the more out there their posts, the more likes they get, the more engagement that they get. But to me, that's just empty. That's not real. There's no substance there. And I think if you're doing that, you're doing yourself a disservice. Show people who you really are. All these people, all these flashy influencers throwing pictures of Lamborghinis. Are they renting that car that day? Do they really wear that bikini when they go for a drive in their Ferrari? and I'm really hoping that with this pandemic and people being quarantined, that people start to realize you don't need much to survive. Go back to some basics, and understand that family's important. Being some sort of viable member of society is important, and helping people. Like, I think we're all here to help each other. Anything else to me doesn't make sense. And I'm always accessible. I respond back to everybody that reaches out to me. I try to get it even within an hour or two. And otherwise, I don't know. I'm not money oriented. To me, money's a byproduct of doing great work. Money's a byproduct of helping people become successful and working as a team. And and I don't work with people that think otherwise.
I love that. That's a brilliant message there. And again, it's something, and regular listeners show, I know we've talked about it before, is that whole, if the only thing you're chasing is money, you're very unlikely to ever get it, because exactly like you said there, money is the byproduct of doing good work or doing something you enjoy and success. And you've got that base level of subsistence and needing, to get a roof over your head and food and stuff like that. But ultimately, whatever you do, unless there's a purpose behind it, it's probably very likely to fall short of where the goal is, which is exactly in what you were saying there. And you touched on it quite a few times, is the adding value piece, which again is a message we really try to resonate on the podcast. And you touched on it. We've been doing this for just coming up for 2 years now, which is a very short length of time. And as you've touched on, building any sort of brand is hard work, and sometimes it's a slog and doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. Sometimes it's like it's going backwards. We in fact enforce on ourselves periods of time where we don't look at any of our stats to just enjoy what we're doing, because if we don't enjoy it, there's no point doing it. And then that stuff starts to grow, and hopefully you've got to have the right strategy in, but it takes care of itself in the background. But it is tough going doing that. But ultimately for us, it is, we want to add value to people. We want to give inspiration. We want people to know that they can achieve their dreams and they can do a lot more than they want, and you can be positive about stuff. And that's kind of our message that sits behind it. And that value bit is resonated through pretty much everything you've said there. It seems from day one, that's been your goal, is how you add value to people and how you utilize those relationships for it as well. So it seems that's been a really key thing. And you've said it's unfortunate to an extent and true that it's not always what you've got or what your skills are, it's who you know. But again, for yourself, you've got, it sounds like an absolutely fantastic network. But again, I'm pretty sure when you were driving around selling nail polish out the back of the car, you didn't have that fantastic network. You've honed and you've developed and you've utilized your skills to be able to grow that network over time and tap into it and keep in contact with people. Again, that's how we did this. You reached out for friendly hello. You sent a happy new year, a few exchanges back and forth, and then it snowballed from there, but you put the effort in. So is that a natural talent you've always had, that relationship building, that rapport thing, or have you had to grow and develop that over time?
No, I'm who I am. I think since 8 years old, which is disheartening. And I was the youngest of four, so I grew up really fast watching my siblings. They're 10 to 12 years older, so 10 to 13 years older. So you see them, I hate saying make mistakes, but you see them do things, and then I learn, oh, you shouldn't do that. So I made mistakes, trust me, plenty, but I grew up too fast. But the relationship side is just it's always been in me. And I will tell you, it is even more important on knowing who not to know than it is who knowing, and who you know. And there's so much value in that, because I have, I'm trusting to a fault. I'll always think that people are inherently good. That's just how I'm wired. But you have to be smart, and you can't revisiting the same characteristics in different people. You have to know who you should work with, who you should go into partnership with, and who you should not. The only way you know who you should not is again going through some experiences, and then when you meet somebody and they burn you to a crisp, well, okay, you should thank them, pray for them that they do well, so you never have to hear from them again. And then when you meet somebody similar to those characteristics, you respectfully just disappear and make sure that they don't come back into your life. And that's part of growing. That's part of understanding how do you survive? How do you get through the day? I mean, before March of 2020, it was hard enough getting through the day. Now you have another layer of nonsense, and it's important. And I shouldn't say things that would offend people, but I don't get involved in any of that noise. I don't talk politics. I don't talk religion. I just focus on what I can control, and that's my little world. This is my little nugget. And if anything affects that nugget, well, I do my best to guard it and protect it. But I can't spend my day watching these news channels and listening to the interviews or watching posts on Twitter, because then I'm not focused on my nugget. Then my nugget rolls off the patio and breaks. It's so mind-boggling. Even, I mean, I've seen and know some amazing CEOs, some incredibly powerful people, and that they've gotten so consumed over what's going on in the world, and they're lacking following and protecting their legacy. They're not protecting their businesses. They're just over here looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, why? How did you become who you became? And you, every time I talk to you, you want to talk about something going. We have no control over that. That is what it is, and if whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Just protect your world as best as you can, and if you get impacted by it, God forbid, do as best as you can to rebuild correctly, and do as best as you can to protect it from the next problem, because there's always going to be a problem. Now, if a volcano goes off right now in where in Wyoming, it's super volcano. It kills the whole world, blocks the sunlight for 6 years. Should I be thinking about that every day and worried, or should I try to live my life the best that I can, and make sure whatever's going on in the world is not impacting my mental health, and not impacting the businesses that we build and that we grow.
No, really good advice there. My analogy for overthinkers is normally, what would I do if a meteor hits? But I might nick your super volcano, because it sounds more dramatic. So I might be adding that to my playbook going forward. And again,
Well,
it's
it could be both. The meteor hits the volcano.
Even better. You've got a plan for two events at once then. Another thing, again, we talk about it a lot on InspirationNation podcast. It's exactly that. We refer to it as circles of control, which is exactly what you say there. And it's absolutely true, is if you can't influence it, why are you wasting your time thinking about it? It's what you can do, how you can affect it. And personally, I find, especially since I've adopted that, it's a great way of, again, a stress coping mechanism as well, because you can just let all this other stuff seep in. But ultimately, if you can't do anything about it, what are you worrying about it for? So I think that's some brilliant advice there that really, really resonates as well. I like that.
I think it's hard for people to grasp. I mean, I even have family members that are just so obsessed over it, and I can't get involved. And I just walk out of the room, because I just I can see the pull. I could see like, I love conspiracy theories with the best of them. I could get in there, but then what? Then everything else that I've been building, and I'll just be some crazy guy walking the streets with nothing and murmuring to myself.
It's one of my favorite coaching things, actually, is the circles control thing with people, because that's what people stress over. And I used, for a while, it was my stock thing, and I'd on a like flip chart or something, and I'd literally just draw a circle, and you've got you and everything else wrote outside, just really simple. But it got to a point where I realized I was overusing it, because pretty much every meeting room within the company I worked in, I'd walk in and I only have to flip back about 3 charts and I'd find one of my circles, and I'm like, maybe I need to start preaching something else alongside the circles of control.
I like that. I want to see that. I hope you have it somewhere.
I'll take a picture of one and I'll send it to you. So in terms of, like I said, you've got a huge diverse interest, holdings, investments in loads and loads of different businesses. I presume you're at varying levels of involvement in them at different times. You mentioned earlier as well, you said about medical technology, and because I'm a huge Marvel films TV nerd, the fact you're invested in a company called Stark Industries, I just think is fantastic, and I absolutely love that. That stood out for me for nothing but I would say for nothing but the name, until I dug in and saw what the company did and realized that it's NASA related ventilation technology, and I'm like, you were involved in some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But what sort of businesses most float your boat, and what are you most excited that you're involved in at the moment?
Yeah, you're gonna hate my answer, because I get asked that a lot. It's everyone. I mean, anyone where my name is on it. I don't care if they're doing zero business or a lot. They're all equally important to me. My name is there, so I have to make sure that they're always a top priority. As unrealistic as that seems, every day there's movement. I preach this. I don't have it on the chart, but I preach, let's move an inch a day. Okay, I just need to see movement. And at the end of the month, we've moved 30 inches. And then we can look back and look at the accomplishments. Small accomplishments, I think, are so much more important than the big wins, because it keeps the team motivated. It shows there's fluidity. I often compare businesses to a flowing stream, like that's inviting. You want to drink from it. You want to splash your face with it. You don't want to do that with a dull, stagnant pond that hasn't moved. And it's the same thing with business or a project or IP or technology. You got to see movement. You got to show energy. You got to show excitement. And that's what I love to do. It's not just a story, but then again, it's taking my holdings. So if I get brought into a company, it's okay. I don't know, you give me something. I don't know. You make something. Well, let's pair it up with this holding, this partner. Let's put this news announcement out this week. Let's get this one set up for 3 weeks from now. But they're real. They're tangible. You know, they're really they're moments. And then a team's fired up. Then a company went from not knowing what to do, being on a path, growing, hiring people. And I don't want to say I'm the reason that happened. I have a knack for seeing talent, whether it's a singer, a product, a solution. But I also have a knack of saying, all right, your use cases are cool, and I don't want to change your vision. But why don't we add let's try this little use case over here. And all of a sudden that becomes the foundation of the company. And then again, you see momentum, and momentum is so important to everything. It's important to athletes and winning games. It's important to singers and being on tour. It's important to people building tech, and whether they're developing an app. You know, I've seen so many great engineers develop incredible apps that never launched the app because it was never ready. It's never ready. It's never perfect yet. It's not ready yet. And they missed the whole boat. I mean, they were before everybody, but because they never put it out to market, whether it was insecurities, they felt it was an inferior product that there was no need for. You know, my job is to create the need, support the need, and protect the company, protect the founders, protect the investors, and protect the customers. That whole ecosystem has to make sense from manufacturing, inception, development, and then whoever's using it. All of that has to be wrapped in a beautiful little bow, and people have to want to be involved in it.
Fantastic. That's all sounds really good. And something you said there again that's really struck with me is the bit about the fear in launching things, and things stagnate when that fear sets in. And things I was like to say is don't let perfection get in the way of progress. And I think too many people can do that, where it falls into that overthinking mentality, I think, where you stagnate because it's not quite right, or it won't get there, or again, you're worried that meteor is going to hit, or that super volcano is going to blow, and it paralyzes. And it's it sounds like you're there to help people through that and push them past those points. And so it's given them the benefit, again, with so many things you've been involved with, and not only all the successes but all the mistakes you will have seen, that you can help people get over those humps, I suppose. But like you said, letting them build a bit of resilience on the way.
Yeah.
I want to mention a couple, just again for people who are watching and for listening, again, EIE, even easy for me to say, .rocks. Head over, have a look. So, I mean, I mentioned Stark Industries because it's a great name, and then actually topical for now with the ventilation, but again, something related to a NASA technology, fantastic thing to be involved in. There's one I saw on there called, is it Spaceborne, to do with looking for...
Spaceborne United. I got invited into that wonderful company, and it's creating life in space. It's making sure that mankind, womankind, humankind, whatever the right terminology is today, can continue to survive in the event that this planet blows up. And how do you continue to create life? And what an incredible company, brilliant doctors that are part of it and running it. And again, I was brought in because of my relationships. We do quite a lot in that space, space, double entendre there. And the story that I bring to make it from that's a very far-fetched idea to becoming a reality. And that, you know, I'm that conduit to makes those things actually become real. And again, obviously capital, they need access to capital. That's something that you don't monetize right away. That's something that big philanthropic arms want to have that as part of their legacy. You know, royal families may want to be the first gene that are born in space, and there's a lot of ego involved in something like that. And there's also a lot of who wants to allocate capital towards that situation. And I got to say that the hard part of that is that you're throwing a little mortality into people's mind, which is tough. You got to be very careful as to the importance of that. And we're not saying you're going to blow up and the world's going to disappear. We're saying we want to continue to evolve and continue to reproduce. And then if you want to go to Mars or different planets, then that means people are going to be on larger vessels that are going to be able to go that distance, and how life continues to grow and how life continues to reproduce. So there's so much more to it than people just thinking, oh, we're going to make sure that humankind can continue in the event that our planet ceases to exist. So again, it's all part of that storytelling.
And you explained that really well there. And I think just, for companies pushing the envelope and doing different things, I just think that is amazing. And I think at the other end of the spectrum isn't the right thing to say, because there's another one that stuck out to me I really liked for what is one of those innovations that now I see it, I'm like, why did someone not come up with this 20 years ago? But they're coming up, and I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's the company who do the shoes with the brake lights on it for motorbikes.
Rome,
That's it.
Adam Timmerberg, a brilliant engineer, marketer, brander. Again, got invited into that company, built a wireless, patented wireless network for in real time connecting gear, apparel, footwear to motorcycles, or power sports, for protecting the rider, for making them more visible, for illuminating them while they're on their ride. And I thought it was a fun and exciting company. And when I got to sit down and meet with Adam, I loved him. I loved what he built. I wanted to be part of Rome. But more importantly, did a little research. There's 200 million motorcycle riders around the world. That's a big audience. Now, I start thinking like a marketer, and I'm like, well, I don't even want to market to the motorcycle riders. I want to market to the mothers, the wives, the husbands, sisters, the daughters. And where my mind started going, if you love somebody and you care about somebody, you want to make sure that they're in a pair of Rome Zero motorcycle boots to make sure that they are seen and protected out there on the road. So that's where I came in to help with the marketing. And then know most of the major motorcycle companies at the management level, and we're putting together some tremendous partnerships, even with insurance companies. Ideally, the goal is lower your insurance premiums if the riders are out there in illuminated gear, because they are more visible even during daylight hours. And it's its own network, so you can do anything with this Roam wireless network. It was built by military grade engineers that know wireless communication, and building scalable networks. So it's a lot more than just lighting up a piece of apparel. There's so much more you can do on that network.
I think it sounds fantastic. Like you said, the growth stuff that comes off of it, and I just think that nugget of the idea of having something that gives that illumination, I just thought was absolutely brilliant. And I'd say after your pitch there on loved ones on the bike, I almost want to go out and buy myself some of it now, just in case.
And they're cool and really well designed, and you can wear them on or off the bike. And I think we'll do some really cool licensing plays with some large fashion apparel brands that illuminate gear, whatever. It could be at a sporting event, could be really anywhere. So stay tuned.
It's good. One of my kids, they're only 10, but they're obsessed with the idea of getting a motorbike. So hopefully by the time they get around to be able to ride that, maybe they'll be mainstream, and I'll have less to worry about when they're on the bike, because it scares me already and they're not even getting on it yet. And on the network thing, I suppose I'd be remiss if I didn't just mention the last question on there for you is just with is it Nodal, the IoT connection, which
Nodal.
If I'm honest, and when it starts getting into using mobile devices for creating networks and stuff, is where it starts to blow my brain a little bit. And I've even seen TV shows where they kind of create these concepts as a fantasy idea. But again, this looks like a potentially huge thing that you're involved in. Invest. How did that one come around?
So Nodal is one of my most coveted holdings. Misha Benoliel, the CEO and co-founder, is also the founder of FireChat. FireChat is what Pied Piper was based off of, with the what's the name of that TV show? Silicon Valley. So that entire show was based off of FireChat. So I've been obsessed with connectivity really since the Twin Towers came down in New York in 2001. And I quickly observed that if Nextel wasn't out during that time, there would have been no communication at ground zero, because there was nothing. There was no cell towers. There was no connectivity. Everything was shut down. But that push to talk, that was very important. And then look at, it's 2021 now. We have not gone anywhere from then until now. If a cell tower goes down or there's a blackout, a terrorist event, something that happens to your connectivity, even in your home, if your Wi-Fi is down, your phones can't connect to it, your computer can't connect to it. So that's a hub and spoke model, and I hate that model. It's not good if there's a problem. And what big companies are doing is amazing. I'm not downplaying anybody, but also there's people walking around with smartphones in second and third world countries, but there's no cell tower, there's no infrastructure because there's no way to monetize that. So it's a very long story. I'm trying to sum up almost 20 years of work. So I was building a company and a wireless wireless connectivity company to connect these devices without the need of any cellular Wi-Fi connection. So I started building that in 2010. In the same time, Misha was building FireChat. Misha went the business to consumer route and knocked it out of the park. And I didn't know him then. I always admired him. I was like, that guy in that company is just doing amazing things. I went to B2B route. So I was taking our tech and our SDK, our API, and working with large organizations, working with presidents of countries, working with major sporting teams, and I had a few really good deals with the music industry, and one of the largest football teams in the world wanted to license this technology for the NFL. And business wise, very foolish of me, I said, this thing can save lives, because it would be completely in airplane mode and I could call the phone, I could message the phone, I could send massive file sizes in seconds. And I said, it's not about money. This thing is important. Awful decision, because that was just crazy road of terrorist engineers and developers that were holding my code and lawsuits and fighting people. But because I'm all about energy, I'm sitting with all of these contracts and all the deals, because the company was mine. I was the one that funded it. I was the one that put all the energy and efforts into it. And Misha went off to build the next evolution of FireChat, and our paths crossed very serendipitously. It shouldn't have happened. And when we sat down and met, we went through a little bit of our history, and then I said, listen, what you're doing with Nodal is amazing. Let's vend in everything that I've built, all of these relationships, all of these agreements, and let's do this. Let's do this together. And he was, and still is, a gentleman, a class act. I get to work with that entire management team. It's one of my favorite holdings, and people say this all the time. I think it will be the most valuable company in the world, because we're connecting millions of devices around the world. We can build a wireless network anywhere just by connecting these very powerful phones. And with the launch of Nodal Cash, which is our cryptocurrency, we give everybody the ability to earn a cryptocurrency. And the biggest issue with cryptocurrencies is people are intimidated by it. They don't know how to get involved. And there's so many rules and regulations. But if you have a phone and you download our app and you're walking around your normal life and you connect to an IoT device and you opt into our network, you earn. And that currency, I think it's going to be tremendously valued. And people will have the ability to change their lives. I love the idea of someone in Africa with Nodal on their phone making $1 a month, but it changed their whole life, because that $1 a month fed their family. It just changed their entire world, and we can do that.
I think that's great to see. Even though you've said the humanitarian part of this was the worst business decision ever, it's still there in the heart of what you're doing, and you're still holding on to that, which I love. And I have to say, it was Silicon Valley was the thing that resonated with me when I read about the company. I'm like, that's what Piper was.
And it was based off of FireChat, and I have the honor of working with that whole team. And we have a lot of great announcements to make. We actually, with the network, I don't know if you saw, we launched the M1, which it was the first wearable device launched to help privately and securely do contact tracing for employees and students to get them back to work. So we use our network. We partnered with Avnet. It became an award-winning wearable, and we think it's the most important device to get people back to work and school, because what it does is it monitors you in close proximity. It makes sure you're staying the right distances apart. But if HR gets notified that one of these employees is infected, they ping that device, and then it notifies all the other devices that were in close proximity over the last 2 weeks that those employees need to now stay home, get tested, or be monitored. So the important thing about that is, warehouse and production plants or schools don't have to shut down the entire facility if one person's sick, because that one person may have only been near a dozen or so people, not hundreds or thousands of people. So we think we have something really important. And the beauty of Nodal, it's a wireless network. We can create these use cases and these technologies on top of it, however they come up, and we do it as quickly as possible.
No, it's brilliant. And I just, and for all those businesses and what you're saying, your passion for them and everything is fantastic. I absolutely love the way you talk about it. I know we haven't got the time to do it, but I think I could talk to you about these for absolute hours. It all sounds really, really good and really interesting. And I dabble. I'm a bit of a crypto fan, so you might get one more phone on your network in the UK joining over the next few hours.
We can't wait to have you.
Excellent. So I suppose to round us off, really, what I suppose one last thing to ask you on, and for our audience and our listeners, because stuff you're saying really, again, resonates with what we're doing. Some of the key messages we always give out on the show. Number one is to do what you love. And if you're not doing what you love, try and shape your world around it, which is, you've shown you can do that. Number two is about adding value, which again, you've shown you can do that and it's successful. And number three is about having good intentions. And you've said it in your relationship, stuff like you're just honest, you wear your heart on your sleeve. You are who you are, and I think your great intentions show through with that. So for all the stuff that is talked about on Inspiration Nation every week, there is someone who is living embodiment that these things do generally work and keep going for them. But what you go in and you do a lot of inspiration for business and other people, and it's our stock question to ask everyone, is ultimately at the heart of it, what inspires you? What is it that you see or hear or do, or someone says something that really gets your adrenaline pumping and makes you think, yes, this is who I want to be?
That's a great question. And I don't have a particular person or particular event, but when I see an entrepreneur that left the corporate world and that doesn't have that safety net of whether it's their health insurance or it's their pension or it's some sort of salary, guaranteed salary. And when I see people like that going out and trying to go after their dreams. Sorry.
No worries.
When I see them doing that, that's inspiring to me. That's what motivates me to do what I do, and that's what motivates me to help give the support that I think these people need. And obviously, I can't help them all, nor am I saying I'm their saving grace, but I didn't have that support. And I look back and I'm like, what the hell could I have done with what I was building if I had the arsenal of, the legal that I have now, the bank and the experience, or someone like me that genuinely came in and wanted to help. So, I think the only way I can answer your question is when I see an entrepreneur out there fighting that fight, that's inspiring for me. And I want to get right in there next to them and help them and support them. And that's right now what's keeping me going, is being able to take what I've built and my experiences and give it to somebody else. Next year I could have a different answer, but right now that's my inspiration.
I love that. It's a brilliant answer. It's been you've been a great inspiration just for me listening to this. Hopefully great value added for our audience as well. It has genuinely been an honor having you on the show. So thank you very much for taking the time to do this. As always, I thank everyone out there for listening, watching, downloading, podcast platform, YouTube, wherever you are. Hit subscribe if you love this. We'll be out each and every week. And don't forget, 8:30 UK time. I think that works out to about 3:30 if you're on the East Coast in the US, where Brian is right now. We are every Tuesday live on Instagram and Twitter as well. So again, Brian, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks everyone listening, and Inspiration Nation, catch you guys later.
I'm sure you'll agree that it's an inspirational interview there with Brian J Esposito. How cool was that? And if you enjoyed that video, I'm sure you'll love these videos over here, these podcast episodes with more interviews. And also don't forget to subscribe right here, as that will mean a ton to me. And don't forget to hit the bell, because it'll tell you when another video goes live. And also don't forget to like and comment, because that will mean a lot to me. So don't forget, it's Inspiration Nation, and I'll see you there.